You've been dreaming about the AR-15 in your neighbor's safe, maybe the tactical shotgun behind the gun shop counter downtown. Maybe, if you're really letting your imagination run, a full military loadout, ceramic plates, grenades, the whole fantasy. Here's the thing, that dream might be what gets you killed. Most survivors in the first 72 hours won't die from lack of firepower. They'll die from noise, weight, and a false sense of invincibility that military-grade gear quietly sells you along with its price tag. That confidence you're feeling right now, looking at that rifle in your head, that's mistake number one. Studies on historical urban collapse events show that over 60% of civilian casualties in the first week come not from direct confrontation, but from failed evacuation decisions rooted in overconfidence. You're not the protagonist. You don't have plot armor. And a weapon you can't carry quietly. Reload reliably or maintain in the field becomes a liability, faster than you can say, "I should have grabbed the crowbar." Welcome to Apocalypse Intel. If you're new here, subscribe and hit the bell, because when things go sideways, you want to already know this stuff. Today we're dismantling the military gear fantasy and handing you something far more dangerous, actual tactical thinking. Let's set the parameters. Fast movers, sprinters, infection by bite and fluid contact. You are in a mid-sized city, population around 400,000, day 3 of the outbreak. You have what you grabbed in 15 minutes before leaving your home. No armory access, no military contacts answering their phones, no script telling you you're going to survive. The zombie variant we're dealing with today retains motor function and hunger drive, but loses higher cognitive processing. They react to sound, movement, and smell. They don't plan, they converge. That's actually the most important thing in this entire video, and we'll come back to it. Now, let's talk about why your AR-15 fantasy is a disaster waiting to happen. The first firearm problem isn't ammunition. Though yeah, you're going to burn through it faster than you think. The first problem is sound. A standard 5.56 round generates roughly 165 decibels unsuppressed. In an urban environment with hard surfaces, that sound bounces, echoes, and carries for several city blocks. You don't just kill one threat. You send a dinner invitation to every converger within a half-mile radius. Most people think, "I'll fire once, problem solved, I move on." Sounds reasonable until you realize that in a dense outbreak scenario, you are never fighting one. You fire, and suddenly you have 47 reasons to regret that decision, bearing down on your position from 3 directions. The second problem is weight. A military loadout, body armor, rifle, sidearm, ammunition vest, trauma kit, easily hits 60 to 80 pounds. That's before food, water, and shelter materials. You think you're protected. What you actually are is slow, and in a fast mover scenario, slow is a death sentence written in really expensive equipment. Here's what most people don't realize. The biology of human endurance says you can carry roughly 30% of your body weight efficiently for extended movement. Past that threshold, your speed drops, your decision-making degrades, and your reaction time increases. You become dumber and slower simultaneously. That's a brilliant combination in a crisis. So what beats it? Let's start with the thing you probably kicked in frustration when your car wouldn't start last winter. The crowbar. Specifically, a 30-inch steel wrecking bar. It weighs approximately 4 pounds. It requires 0 maintenance. It generates 0 noise. It can breach doors, move debris, break windows, and eliminate threats at close range without any moving parts to jam, no magazine to empty, and no sound signature to broadcast your location. But here's where the obvious solution trap swallows people whole. Most people holding a crowbar think about swinging it. Big arc, overhead, cinematic. That's how you miss, overextend, lose your balance, and fall into a cluster of threats you just invited with all that arm movement. The tactical use of an impact tool in close quarters is a thrust or a hook, not a swing. You target structural weak points, temple, joint, base of skull. With controlled short-range strikes, you stay compact, you stay quiet, you stay on your feet. That's the difference between the crowbar killing you and the crowbar keeping you alive. The second improvised weapon that outperforms its military counterpart in this scenario is the compound bow. Not because it's romantic, or because you've seen it in every post-apocalyptic film ever made, because it is genuinely, tactically superior in a noise-sensitive urban environment. A military sniper rifle gives you range and stopping power. A compound bow gives you silence, reusable ammunition, and a draw weight sufficient to penetrate the skull effectively at distances up to 40 meters with practice. The military rifle's advantages, range beyond 200 meters, rapid follow-up shots, are largely irrelevant in urban close-quarters movement where engagement distances average under 20 feet. You know what doesn't help you when you're clearing a convenience store for supplies? The ability to engage a target at 800 meters. You know what does help you? Not announcing your presence to the 3 infected in the next aisle. Let's talk about the third improvised solution, and this one's going to make some of you deeply uncomfortable. The fire extinguisher. Not as a weapon in the traditional sense, as a crowd-control device, military flashbang grenades cost hundreds of dollars each and require training to deploy safely. A CO2 fire extinguisher, discharged in a narrow corridor or stairwell, creates a white-out cloud, drops ambient temperature sharply, and, critically, disrupts the olfactory and sensory tracking that infected rely on for convergence. You confuse the threat cluster. You create a window, you move through it. Military gear solves military problems. Your problem isn't a fortified enemy position. Your problem is noise management, resource efficiency, and sustainable movement through a threat-dense environment. These are fundamentally different challenges, requiring fundamentally different tools. Now let's talk about the cascade, because this is where most people, even the ones nodding along right now, completely fall apart. You've made good decisions so far. You grabbed light, quiet tools. You're moving smart. And then you hear someone else firing. Automatic fire 2 blocks east. Your brain does something ancient and stupid. It tells you to move toward safety, toward firepower, toward the group with the guns. Here's the thing. That group with the guns just dinged the dinner bell for every infected within a kilometer. They are not a safe harbor. They are a magnet. And you, moving toward them, are about to walk straight into the convergence zone they created. A drops their position by firing. Someone yells to coordinate. Everyone congregates at the noise source. The infected converge from 4 vectors. Your options compress from navigate to safety to survive the next 4 minutes. That's the cascade. One bad decision, someone else's bad decision, turned your calculated survival into a crisis you didn't author. This is why your improvised loadout needs one thing military gear almost never emphasizes: an exit option. Every tool you carry should support movement, not commitment. The crowbar opens doors. The bow operates quietly. The extinguisher buys time. Nothing in that kit encourages you to stand and fight when running is the correct answer. Military doctrine is built on holding ground, establishing perimeters, and projecting force. Your doctrine, in this scenario, should be the exact opposite. Touch nothing, commit to nothing, and be somewhere else before the problem fully materializes. Let's be real for a minute. The fourth improvised weapon on this list isn't a weapon at all by most people's definitions. It's a shopping cart. Bear with me. A shopping cart, used offensively in a narrow aisle or corridor, covers roughly 4 feet of width. It can be shoved into a cluster of infected to create separation and buy displacement time. It carries your supplies, reducing your physical load and freeing your hands for primary tools. It can be used to prop a door, create a noise trap with cans and debris, and block a choke point while you clear a space. The military equivalent, a vehicle, requires fuel, roads, keys, and makes you the loudest thing in the county. The shopping cart requires none of those things and costs you nothing. It's not glamorous. The fix is boring, methodical, and effective. That's the entire philosophy of improvised survival. The fifth and final improvised solution is one most people overlook completely because it isn't physical, it's information architecture. Military units have comms, intelligence networks, drone surveillance, and coordinated situation reports. You have none of that. But here's what you do have. Local knowledge. You know which streets flood when it rains. You know that the hardware store on 5th has a loading dock accessible from the alley. You know the hospital parking structure has a pedestrian bridge to the building next door. That information is worth more than a tactical vest in this scenario, and it weighs exactly nothing. Military gear optimizes for a known threat environment. Local knowledge optimizes for your specific environment, which is the only one that actually matters. So let's give you the honest assessment. Your improvised loadout, crowbar, compound bow, CO2 extinguisher, mobility-enabling carry system, and leveraged local knowledge scores higher than a standard military kit on 4 of 5 critical survival metrics in an urban fast-mover scenario. Noise discipline. Improvised loadout wins completely. Military kit loses the moment the first trigger is pulled. Weight and mobility. Improvised loadout wins by 30 to 40 pounds of operational efficiency. Resupply sustainability. Improvised loadout wins. Crowbars don't need ammo. Psychological clarity. Improvised loadout wins. Fewer options means fewer decision bottlenecks. The one metric where military gear wins: lethal force capacity in a sustained direct engagement. And here's the brutal honesty. If you are in a sustained direct engagement in a fast-mover urban scenario on day 3, you have already made several serious mistakes that no amount of firepower is going to reverse. Your survival rating in this scenario with the improvised loadout, assuming you apply the principles above, 6.5 out of 10 for week 1. 3 out of 10 beyond 30 days without establishing a fortified base with a group. With a military loadout and no tactical adjustment, 4 out of 10 for week 1. 1.5 out of 10 beyond 30 days. The noise alone will erode your position faster than your ammunition can compensate. Long-term survival in a city with fast movers is grim no matter what you're carrying. There's no sugarcoating it. But the improvised loadout keeps you mobile, quiet, and adaptive. The 3 things that actually determine who's still breathing on day 30. The practical summary is this: you travel light, you travel quiet, you engage only when avoidance has failed completely. You use your tools to create distance and time, not to project dominance. You know your city better than any military planner who's never walked those streets, and you use that edge ruthlessly. You don't carry more than you can run with. You don't fire unless running has stopped being an option. And you remember, every single time you're tempted by the gun shop window or the dead soldier's abandoned kit, that the goal isn't to look like you can survive. The goal is to still be making decisions tomorrow. All right. Your turn. You're on day 3, mid-sized city, fast movers confirmed in your district. You've grabbed what's in your garage: a crowbar, a hand axe, a compound bow with 12 arrows, and a fire extinguisher. You hear a group 2 blocks over with rifles, calling for others to join them. Do you move toward them or away? How long do you hold your current position before you decide that silence is no longer a safe strategy? And honestly, when you picture yourself in that scenario, are you actually moving like someone who has a plan, or are you moving like someone who's hoping they're the main character? No plot armor, no respawn button, just the choices you make in the next 60 seconds and what those choices say about whether you've actually been paying attention. Drop your loadout in the comments. Tell me what you'd grab and why. Argue with my assessment. I want to see your tactical thinking, not just your wish list. If this kind of thinking is what you come here for, subscribe and hit the bell, because Apocalypse Intel isn't here to sell you fantasies. We're here to make sure that when the moment arrives, you're the one still making decisions.